As an elite athlete, you've already put in a ton of hard work to develop your capabilities. But until you develop a rock solid mental game, you won't perform consistently when it matters most. You've probably tried the fluffy and cookie cutter advice perpetuated by the sport culture. The most common is to just be positive, but that doesn't help you face and deal with the shit. Other common cliches include forget about it, don't worry about it, or just be confident. These are great outcomes, but they're not the how to's. It is easy to promote these fluffy and cookie cutter hacks, but when you build your mental game by patching together all these quick fixes, it's like building a house out of straw. It's not sustainable and it will fall apart in the face of adversity and pressure. Instead, you need to build your mental game like you would a brick house out of practical and personalized strategies that deliver reliable and repeatable results. I'm Dr. Cassie Preston, a mental performance coach and founder of CEP Mindset. And today I'm going to walk you through our 3-step system to win the mental game, aka how to build your brick house. So here are the 3 steps. The first one is the blueprint. It's about awareness and understanding what you're working on. It gives you a framework so you know the foundations and can better assess your mindset and your mental game. Step 2 is where you actually start to build the brick house, your mindset, the mental game with the tools and the strategies. You want to make sure those are personalized and they work for you. And the 3rd step is where you upkeep and upgrade. It's this constant work and refinement and maintenance to your mindset and your mental game. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And if you're interested in learning more about our programs, visit cepmindset.com to find out more about mental performance coaching and how to get started. So let's dive into step 1 here, the blueprint, which is simply, again, awareness. What is it we're working on? And we like to layer this into the 3 levels of performance identity, elite habits, and leadership. And particularly what this means in the main area is this foundation. It's how you show up in the moments of impact on the playing field, in the games. And there's 4 cornerstones there: focus, composure, resilience, and confidence. And the idea is they're all interrelated. It's knowing which ones are most important for you to work on. And so we usually start in the foundation. We work into the strategies, which we'll get into shortly. But often as people and athletes climb the ranks, disciplined, centered, being a leader, it builds on top of that foundation. And you can simply think of it this way. You want to be in the zone. You're going to be focused on the process, things you can control. You're composed, you're relaxed, yet focused. You're resilient in the face of any adversity and challenges. And you're definitely confident. You own and you trust your capabilities. Now, what's interesting in our assessment and as you're continuing to grow your awareness of your mindset, your mental game, or your blueprint, is those are the skills and the concepts that we want to build. But for each one, there's this reciprocal mental block or area that can hold you back. And so for confidence, that would be yo-yo confidence, or it's these limiting beliefs around self-image and what other people think. Focus is a big one where we get caught up in the results trap and we worry about the need tos, the have tos, the shoulds, and define success, fun, and your why to the results. The other 2 big ones are the overthinking paradox, which try to think your way out of overthinking, and the downward spiral, which we beat ourselves up and we don't deal with and embrace the challenges or adversity well. Bottom line is this assessment, and when you're thinking about your mindset, you want to know what skills you're working on and how you want to show up, but also what mental blocks to clear. And by clearing those mental blocks, it helps you develop those mental skills and show up in the zone, trusting yourself. So now that you know what you're working on and you identify what your top priorities are and what to clear, now you need strategies and tools that actually work. And you want to make sure you personalize them. None of these are cookie cutter for any athlete and person we work with. They got to create it in a way that works for them. Walk through each of these in a little more depth in a second here, but I want to just show you how they all work together. In the middle is the alter ego. It comes from Todd Herman's work, and it's simply about contrasting what it means for you to show up at your best versus your worst, to be in the moment, trusting yourself versus not, and in your own head. And this is important to personalize it versus just generically using terms that we could contrast for anybody. And now that you have that and you build up that alter ego, it's about activating it, which is the reset routine, one of our favorite tools to make sure you show up in the moment on game day, in the moments of impact, on practice day as well. It's a 10 to 15 second routine that helps you get centered, clear your mind, and show up and perform at your best. The 3rd one is the personal scorecard. And think about this as knowing what to focus on. A simple contrast is we're usually consumed by the external scoreboards, the results, the need tos, the have tos, and the shoulds. And so to help us stay centered and to reflect and keep learning and growing, we want to be tracking what matters most to you, both in terms of your mental state and the alter ego, but also in terms of your process and how you want to play. A big part of this is also defining what your game is or how you want to show up and play, and then track that. Hence the premise, we call it a personal scorecard. It works really well, and it ties directly then into the last main one, which is about mental prep and imagery. It's simply setting your intention about how you want to show up. Again, that alter ego mental state, as well as your process and some coping planning. And the idea now is you put these all together, you get mentally prepared, very clear intentions, you activate, you get present, and you go play, you learn and grow, and you reflect and score yourself on what matters so you can keep learning and growing. Prepare, play, reflect. A very effective cycle on how these personalized tools work for consistent growth in both your mindset and your mental game, but as well as your performance. All right, so I'm just going to give a bit more context to each of those 4 fundamental tools because they're so important to the work that we do. And again, each one's personalized for you, the athlete, and the person that's working on their mindset, their mental game. Back to the first one, the alter ego, again, from Todd Herman's work, and he uses this great analogy of Superman versus Clark Kent and who's the real person. What is the alter ego all about? And the idea is sometimes people think it's Clark Kent needs to become Superman, and I need to become more of this best version, this better version of myself. And that's not the best way to look at it. And actually, the reality, the true you, the real you is always there. And then we hold ourselves back, adopt limiting beliefs, and play small or think small and shrink and worry about what other people think or trying to fit in, etc. And the idea is, therefore, the alter ego has a lot to do with not just be positive and focus on how we want to show up, but letting go and dealing with and looking at what it means to be in our own head or how we're holding ourselves back, as well as then putting a persona, and you be creative in this process and playful, and you embrace it and personalize it for you. And when somebody gets this and it clicks, it works really well. We've had all kinds of unique ones. One of the ones I'll share quickly, one of my favorite ones, a Olympic level kayaker, talk about being the relentless Hulk versus doubtful Dory. And so when she gets into that mental state, it works really well for her, it clicks for her, and therefore really helps her perform at her full capabilities. All right, the next one is the reset routine, which I'll quickly explain and use an analogy of about being on a dock versus the water. I did a whole video about this called Jump into the Zone. That's the thumbnail recently. And the idea is when you're on the dock versus being in the water, you think of like being at a cottage or somewhere, we want to be the person that just runs and jumps in the water. And that person has alignment in their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions, therefore. And what often happens is the person on the dock does what? They hesitate. They maybe put their toe in, they're doubting. So they might think they want to go in the water, but they're feeling, they're worried, they're afraid, oh, is it too cold? And therefore the action is hesitant as well. There's not that alignment. So the reset routine is all about acceptance, is the most important and the hardest part about it, which I elaborate a bit on that video when we go into our programs. That helps you make this jump. It's an awareness and a choice of what state are you showing up. Are you the one that's hesitating on the dock, and therefore accept and make the choice to get the alignment, the thoughts, the feelings, and the actions, so that you just jump into the water, go into attack mode, trust yourself, etc. What it is for you. There is other big parts to the reset routine, which is breathing is always a very helpful thing because it helps us get centered. And then also closing our eyes and activating and imagining, setting our intention. Again, it's a 10 to 15 second routine, works really well when you personalize it, you tie it into the alter ego and apply it consistently. The next one is that personal scorecard. And also did a video about this that goes a little more in depth, but the premise here is, what are you focusing on that's within your control? And we want to tattoo our process and our mental state to our mind. So as we get clear on how we want to show up in the mental state and characteristics and traits that work for you, you want to measure that and track that instead of just constantly assessing yourself based on society's definitions of success. So there's 2 big things that we do: mental state, right? Using our alter ego, and process, or defining what your game is. It's a cliche. Everyone says, oh, I'm just going to go play my game. Focus on the things I can control. Well, what are those things? And you can't have 100 things. Having clear priorities really matters, is really effective. And then the other way that you can think of this, and we often call it, is reflection. And the idea is reflection is key to your growth. It helps you become more self-aware. helps you hold yourself accountable. You get better at self-correcting the more you consistently reflect. Most athletes, most people don't have healthy and effective and consistent reflection processes that are focused on the things in their control. So as you do this, it's a key part to building your brick house for your mental game. So the fourth fundamental is that imagery script, which is simply about setting those intentions. And we actually have, especially in hockey, and we'll be adding other ones in our daily tools under resources. You can find some imagery scripts that are generic, but you want to personalize them. And there's two big parts that we do. There's other little things, but the two big ones are coping planning, preparing to cope with stressors, adversity, challenge. And that's a huge part of developing your mindset, your mental game. It helps reinforce it so you're mentally prepared, as well as action planning. So what do you actually want to do and how do you want to feel while you do it? So we walk you through, make sure you create that. And so doing this is a big part to finishing those four fundamentals. Now, to be clear, when you think about your mental toolbox, you want to have those four fundamentals integrated, using them to some degree. But there's a ton of other stuff that we do and you can do and you can tweak, because as we move towards step 3, that upgrade, upkeep, there's other things out there that we have and we're always tweaking and updating that you use. And actually, often a lot of these help serve the top ones. And like we alluded to earlier in the blueprint, well, eventually you might be working more on the elite habits and how you're showing up, or leadership tools and concepts. So again, the point of this slide is just to highlight there's more to it than the four fundamentals, but that always comes back to those. And those are the cornerstone strategies that help you build that brick house mental game. Now, to wrap it up, step 3 is this upkeep and upgrade, which simply is reminding and making sure you're very aware this is not a quick fix. It's not maybe in a couple of weeks or a month, you improve your mindset, your mental game, you're getting the results in your sport and your field of play, but then you can't stop. Just like with building a brick house, you have to keep working at it, keep refining it, keep upgrading it, keep it clean so it doesn't fall apart. That's just a never-ending process. What's unique with that is every season, every year, we use these 5 milestones as a way to highlight what does the journey look like. And as you keep upgrading and upkeeping, as you can see here, step 1 in any season, you get 1 game. And so based on the sport, these numbers could change varying, but 1 game, 1 performance, 95 plus in the zone, all in the water that you jumped in. You are fully just trusting yourself. You're not hesitating. You're showing up fully in that alter ego at your best. That's why we use 95 plus to avoid perfection. But then level 2, the bronze star, is where you got 4 straight games. That's roughly 2 weeks. And this isn't easy to do because anybody can do it sometimes or every other game, but it's consistently being able to show up. That's when you're really building that brick house. It's solidifying and it's getting to the next level. Then levels 3 and 4 are now doing it on an even longer term. So 2 months, maybe it's 8 out of 10 games as an example. It's not about perfection. Again, every game dialed in. Obviously, that would be a goal and intent, but within reason, there could be a couple games that drop to a 90 or an 85. We want to minimize those and bounce back quickly. And when you think about the gold star and the full season, it might be like 50 out of 55 games. So again, a high percentage of the games at 95 plus. You're just dialed in throughout the full season. And to be fair, this is something you could do within your first year and you're really starting to work on and apply practical concepts and personalize those tools and strategies for you. But it might take a year or 2 to get there. But that's where we're going. And there is this 5th category, which we call the purple heart, which simply, as you master and work on your mental game, you also want to make sure you're being a great leader. And as you're doing that, now you're optimizing your overall brick house mental game, your impact in your own performance, but also within your team and the others around you. Now, I just got one quick slide here to reinforce, if you do the work, you'll get the results. My job as a coach is to help guide and suggest and personalize strategies with athletes and people. But the premise is you have to dive in. You have to be open, curious, creative in the process, and apply and do the strategies yourself. If you do, you'll get the results in both your mental game and your performance. So to wrap up here, we covered the 3 steps to win the mental game, aka build your brick house. And that include the blueprint, the awareness, and then personalizing the tools and actually starting to build. And then you got to have that upkeep, the upgrades. It's this never ending reflection and refinement process. So now your job is to go and do the work. I'll also highlight one of the best ways and the fastest ways to do the work is to have a coach that guides you and works with you. Just like actually building a brick house, probably better not to do it alone. Have an engineer to help you. Our job is to help and guide you to help hold you accountable, to cover your blind spots, to personalize the tools in a more effective way so you get faster results and long-term results. I encourage you to be proactive. The sooner you start, the quicker and the more effectively you're going to build up your brick house and upgrade and upkeep it. So the next steps, if you're interested to getting started with myself or someone on our team of mental performance coaches, is to click the book now button. You submit, you get on the phone first with our admin team because they're going to help assess your situation, the different options in the programs, and make sure they find the right coach that's the best fit for you. And it's important to highlight your first session. It's risk-free. It's a 30 minutes intro session where you get to see the coach, make sure it's a good fit. And then when and if you do a program, you can stop at any time. So I encourage you to check that out, try that out if that's of interest for you. Otherwise, I hope you found this helpful. Reminder to like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you in the next video.